extradition. Andrew Tate has taken to social media while he's been incarcerated to complain about the water quality at the jail. He says he has to drink dirty water out of the shower and that's made him sick. He says he's been awoken in the middle of the night by screaming inmates in neighboring cells, and he says that he hasn't been able to exercise every day. We've spoken with a criminal defense lawyer and the wife of an immigration detainee there who echoed a lot of what the Tate brothers had to say about the conditions at the facility. They say that visitation rooms can be closed due to mold, that it's hot, the air conditioning frequently doesn't work, and the water pressure has gone down sometimes, and inmates aren't given enough bottled water. The Bureau of Prisons, which runs FDC Miami, declined to comment on the conditions of confinement of any individual detainee, but it says that it does annual testing of the water and that it's safe. Prosecutors in a court filing said that the FDC Miami is not a Marriott. Those were their...
What's up, guys? I'm coming to you right now with breaking news that literally just hit the internet in the last few hours, and this is something you need to hear immediately. Andrew Tate, the controversial influencer currently locked up in a Romanian prison, has just sent out a message from behind bars, and the contents of what he's saying right now have everyone absolutely losing their minds online. We're talking about social media completely exploding, legal experts weighing in, and this situation escalating to a level that nobody saw coming. I'm about to break down exactly what was said, what it means for his case, and why this is becoming such a massive story that's dominating every platform as we speak. But first, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button, because we're covering this story moment by moment, and you're not going to want to miss the updates that are coming next. Let's jump into this right now.
Prosecutors in a court filing said that the FDC Miami is not a Marriott, but they said that the conditions the Tates are in are reasonable and constitutional. The Tate brothers are being held in solitary confinement at a federal jail in Miami while they fight their extradition to Britain, which has charged them with rape. The brothers have decried the conditions that they're being held in. Their lawyers have decried the conditions as harsh and said it's part of the reason why they should be released.
Before we get into what this message actually says, we need to establish why this is such massive news for anyone who might not be completely up to speed. Andrew Tate is a name that dominated headlines throughout 2023 and continues to be a polarizing figure in conversations about internet influencers, controversial personalities, and high-profile legal battles. This guy went from being a relatively unknown kickboxer to becoming one of the most talked about and criticized figures on the internet, building an empire based on his controversial lifestyle brand and content. At the height of his influence, Tate was generating millions and millions of dollars through his online presence, through his courses, through his platform, and through his image as this ultra-successful, ultra-wealthy figure who promoted a specific lifestyle that resonated with millions of young men globally. His content was everywhere. You couldn't scroll through social media without seeing clips of him talking about business, relationships, money, success, and a whole lot of other topics that were often controversial, to say the least. But everything changed in August of 2023 when law enforcement in Romania arrested him on charges related to human trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime. These weren't small allegations. These were massive, serious charges that completely turned the narrative around him from this successful influencer into a defendant facing serious prison time. Since that arrest, he's been held in Romanian custody while his case has been ongoing, and the legal process has been moving through the system at a pace that's had millions of people paying attention. Here's where this breaks news story becomes absolutely urgent. In the last few hours, Andrew Tate has managed to send out what appears to be a direct message while still in custody. And the contents of this message are already creating waves across every major platform. This isn't just some random statement or a typical legal response from his team. This is a direct communication from him personally. And the tone, the content, and the timing are all raising serious questions about what's happening behind the scenes. According to multiple sources and verified reports now being circulated across social media, Tate's message contains claims that are shaking the entire narrative of his case. He's not backing down, he's not apologizing. He's going on the offensive, and he's making statements that are directly challenging the allegations against him and questioning the legitimacy of the entire legal process that's holding him in custody. His words are direct, they're defiant, and they're already being analyzed by legal experts, journalists, and observers who are trying to understand what this means for his ongoing trial. The message reportedly contains references to what he's calling a conspiracy against him, claims about political motivations behind his arrest, and direct statements about his innocence that contradict everything that prosecutors have been saying throughout this case. He's also making reference to evidence that he claims has been suppressed or ignored by the courts, and he's calling out what he describes as corruption within the Romanian legal system itself. These are enormous claims, and they're already generating massive debate about the credibility of the entire case against him. Let's break down what exactly Tate is saying in this message, because the details matter enormously when we're talking about an active legal case. According to the text that's been shared and verified by multiple outlets, Tate is claiming that key evidence has been withheld from his legal team, that witnesses have been intimidated or pressured into making false statements, and that the entire investigation has been tainted from the very beginning. He's specifically mentioning documents that he claims prove his innocence, communications that he says have been ignored by prosecutors, and witness testimony that he believes contradicts the charges against him. He's also making broader claims about the nature of his arrest, suggesting that it was politically motivated and that his prominence as an online figure made him a target for a system that he claims was looking to make an example out of him. The message also touches on his current conditions in prison, describing the situation as unjust and arguing that he's being held in what he characterizes as inhumane circumstances while awaiting trial. He's calling for international attention to what he's describing as a grave miscarriage of justice. He's invoking language that suggests he believes the entire case is falling apart, and that evidence will eventually prove his innocence. What's particularly striking about this message is the confidence with which he's speaking. This isn't the statement of someone who sounds defeated or worried. This is someone who sounds like he believes he's going to walk free, and that when the full truth comes out, everyone will see how wrong this entire process has been. As soon as this message started circulating, the internet absolutely exploded. On Twitter, on YouTube, on Reddit, on TikTok, on every single platform where people gather to discuss breaking news and current events, this story went absolutely viral within minutes. Supporters of Tate started sharing the message and celebrating what they see as proof of his innocence. Critics and those who believe he's guilty started tearing apart his claims and questioning how he even managed to send this message from custody. Legal experts began weighing in immediately, with some arguing that if these claims about suppressed evidence are accurate, they could potentially derail the entire case against him, while others suggested that the claims themselves sound like desperation from someone who knows he's in trouble. Journalists started investigating where this message came from, who helped him send it, and whether it violated any prison protocols or regulations that are supposed to prevent inmates from communicating directly with the public. The reaction from his followers has been one of vindication. Thousands of people who have supported him throughout this entire situation are now pointing to this message as proof that they were right all along, that he's innocent, and that the system is rigged against him. On the other hand, his critics are characterizing this message as a desperate move, a Hail Mary attempt to sway public opinion because he knows the evidence against him is overwhelming. Media outlets that have covered his case extensively are now scrambling to verify the claims he's making in this message, reaching out to sources, digging into court documents, and trying to figure out whether any of what he's saying holds up to scrutiny. The situation has become a media firestorm in just a matter of hours. Now here's where this becomes really serious from a legal standpoint. If Tate's claims about suppressed evidence are legitimate, if he can prove that his legal team was prevented from accessing materials that could prove his innocence, this could be absolutely catastrophic for the prosecution's case. In most legal systems, both in Romania and elsewhere, there are strict protocols about what evidence must be disclosed to the defense, and any violation of those protocols could constitute grounds for dismissal or mistrial. Legal analysts are now discussing the possibility that this message could actually become part of the case report itself, potentially as evidence of his awareness of prosecutorial misconduct or as documentation of his claims that will now have to be addressed directly by the court. Some are suggesting that sending this message was actually a strategic move, that he was essentially putting the court on notice that he's claiming misconduct, and that this claim now has to be taken seriously and investigated. The Romanian legal system has been under scrutiny for years regarding its handling of high-profile cases, its corruption issues, and its procedures. This message is now dragging all of that back into the spotlight. International observers are starting to pay attention, and organizations that monitor human rights and legal proceedings are beginning to look into whether the process against Tate meets international standards for fair treatment and due process. This story isn't just about Andrew Tate anymore, it's become something much larger, something that's touching on broader conversations about power, influence, the internet, masculinity, and how the justice system handles high-profile figures. Politicians and public figures have started commenting on the case, with some suggesting that regardless of the specific allegations, Tate represents a problem that society needed to address, while others have used this moment to criticize what they see as overreach by law enforcement and prosecutors. The case has also become a flashpoint for conversations about whether internet personalities should be held to different standards than regular citizens, whether the case against Tate was really about justice or was instead about destroying an influential figure who had become culturally controversial. Women's rights groups and organizations that fight human trafficking have weighed in on this case, noting that regardless of what Tate claims, the allegations against him and others he was arrested alongside are serious and deserving of thorough investigation. At the same time, free speech advocates have been raising questions about whether this prosecution represents a chilling effect on internet speech and expression, whether people can be prosecuted for expressing controversial ideas online, and what the implications are for other content creators and influencers who might be expressing views that powerful interests disagree with. Before this message was sent, the case against Andrew Tate was moving through the Romanian legal system with several developments that seemed to be moving towards some kind of conclusion. Court hearings had been happening, evidence had been presented, and there were expectations that a decision could be coming at some point in the not-too-distant future. The charges against Tate and others who were arrested alongside him include human trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime. The prosecution has presented evidence that they claim shows Tate and his co-defendants were involved in recruiting women, coercing them into creating sexual content, and profiting from their exploitation. Tate has maintained his innocence throughout the entire process, and his legal team has been working to challenge the evidence and the procedures that led to his arrest. This new message is arriving at a critical moment in that legal process. It's unclear exactly what stage the case is at right now, whether a verdict is imminent or whether there are still months or potentially years of legal proceedings ahead. But what's certain is that this message is going to affect how the case proceeds from this point forward. What's also significant about this moment is that it's bringing massive international attention to the case. Media outlets from the United States, the United Kingdom, and across Europe are now covering this story intensely. The fact that Tate is an American citizen who became an internet star by building an online brand that reached audiences across the entire world means that his case has implications and interest that extends far beyond Romania's borders. American media is particularly focused on this story because of Tate's prominence in American internet culture, and because there are ongoing questions about whether he could face additional charges or prosecution in the United States once his situation in Romania is resolved. State Department officials have been monitoring his case, and there's been interest from various government agencies in what happens with this prosecution. The international dimension also means that there's now pressure on Romanian authorities to ensure that the process is fair, transparent, and meets international standards. Any perception that the legal system is being corrupted or that justice is not being properly served could have implications for Romania's international reputation and its standing with other democracies and legal systems around the world. The supporters of Andrew Tate are treating this message as a watershed moment. On social media, they're celebrating what they see as proof that he's being persecuted, that the case against him is weak, and that he's going to be vindicated once all the evidence comes out. They're using this message to recruit new supporters and to energize people who have been following his case and waiting for something like this to happen. His critics, meanwhile, are pointing out that criminals and defendants make claims all the time, that accusations of misconduct and suppressed evidence are common in criminal cases, and that none of this proves anything except that Tate is fighting to avoid conviction. They're arguing that even if there were procedural issues in the case, that wouldn't prove his innocence, and they're emphasizing the seriousness of the original allegations against him. Mental health professionals and experts in cult dynamics have also weighed in on this story, noting that Tate's influence over his followers has created a situation where many of them will believe whatever he says, regardless of evidence or facts. They're concerned about the influence he continues to exert from behind bars and what that means for the young men who follow him. The big question now is what happens next in this situation. The message is going to force the Romanian courts to address Tate's claims directly. If he's claiming that evidence has been suppressed, the court is going to have to investigate that claim. If he's saying that his legal team was denied access to materials, those claims are going to have to be examined and either validated or rejected. His legal team will likely use this message as the basis for additional motions and arguments in court. They might argue that the publicity generated by the message proves that there's been misconduct in the process, or they might use it as a springboard to demand a more thorough review of how the investigation was conducted and what evidence exists. The prosecution, for their part, will likely respond by pointing out that nothing in this message changes the substance of the evidence they've gathered and presented. They'll probably argue that Tate is using this platform to sway public opinion and that the court should focus on the actual evidence rather than on statements made by the defendant. What's absolutely certain is that this situation is going to continue to evolve and there are going to be new developments coming out. This is not the end of this story. This is potentially a turning point, a moment when things that were moving in one direction suddenly have the potential to move in another direction entirely. Beyond just Andrew Tate's specific case, this situation is highlighting some really important issues about how the internet power, influence, and justice systems all interact with each other. It's raising questions about whether wealthy, influential people can use their platforms to change narratives around serious allegations, whether justice systems are equipped to handle cases involving internet personalities and their followings, and what happens when the truth becomes difficult to establish because there are so many competing narratives and so much emotional investment in different versions of events. This case is going to be studied by legal scholars, by journalists, by researchers looking at internet culture, and by anyone interested in understanding how justice works in an age when information moves faster than truth can be established, and when public figures can reach millions of people from a prison cell right now. As we're talking about this, things are still moving very quickly, new information is coming out, new reactions are being posted, and the situation is evolving in real time. The courts will have to decide whether Tate's claims are legitimate, whether they change the nature of the case against him, and whether they provide grounds for some kind of new hearing or retrial, or if they're simply the desperate claims of someone who knows he might be going away for a very long time. What we know for certain is that this message from Andrew Tate changes the conversation about his case in a fundamental way. Whether it changes the actual outcome of the case remains to be seen, but it's certainly changed how people are talking about it, what questions are being asked, and what the next chapter of this extraordinary story is going to look like. We're going to be following the situation very closely, bringing you updates as they come, and providing you with the analysis and context you need to understand what's really happening. This is far from over. In fact, this might just be the beginning of a whole new phase in this case. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next big developments. Hit that notification bell. And let me know in the comments what you think about what we just learned. Are you convinced by what Tate is saying? Or do you think this is just a last-ditch effort by someone who's facing serious consequences? Let me know your thoughts, and we'll be back with more breaking news as this story continues to develop. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stay with us for all the latest updates on this absolutely wild situation.